Your voice is sort of starting to sound a little bit more muffled, but that doesn't really matter because you're recording.
Okay. That might be my microphone.
It might be, but it's more likely that it's the connection.
All right.
And even if it is your microphone, it's not the end of the world.
Well, it might, unrelatedly be the end of the world.
Then it wouldn't be the end of the world. Then something else would be the end of the world.
Well, okay.
It would just be correlated to the end of the world.
All right. Fair point.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Lewis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room, a podcast about Doctor Who and other things. So, what'd you think about the Aztecs, Lewis?
I liked it for the most part. It was, I don't know, I don't necessarily want to say different than what I was expecting, but it was different from, I guess, what I was expecting.
You don't want to say it, but you'll say it anyhow. Personally, I really like the Aztecs, and I think it's my favorite First Doctor story. I've watched all of the first season and a little bit of the second season, because there was a time when I thought, hey, I'm going to watch everything in order, and I ended up giving up in the middle of the second season. But while I was doing that, the Aztecs was my favorite thing that I saw.
I don't know if this is kind of the norm, because it's really the only First Doctor episode I've seen, besides an unearthly child. But it was kind of weird seeing the Doctor kind of take a back seat, I want to say. Because he was, in a garden for a while, and, Barbara was the one who was kind of doing everything. I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, originally, with the series having 4 main characters, it was a little bit more distributed in terms of who was the star. Because the hero figure is really, I guess you'd say, Ian. He's almost like the hero of the show, and the Doctor isn't as much. That comes through a little bit in An Unearthly Child as well. But here, yeah, the Doctor is a lot more passive than you'd see him in the stories to follow, especially from the second Doctor onward.
It seemed for the most part that besides helping Ixta, I think, helping Ixta win the fight, he really didn't seem to accomplish all that much until, I guess, the very end. But
yeah, that's pretty true.
But yeah, he actually seemed to do a bit more harm than good. At least with regard to the Ixta thing. Yeah,
that is true. He also seemed very willing to just roll with the Aztec sacrifice custom for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, he did make that big deal about not changing history.
I don't know if you picked up on it, but the line that he says is actually, it's reused in Silence of the Library.
Is it?
Well, in the Aztecs, the Doctor tells Barbara, you can't rewrite history. Not one line. And then in Silence of the Library, the Doctor tells River Song that he can change history so that she doesn't die. And she says, no, you can't rewrite that. Not one line.
Yeah, I do remember that now. That didn't even occur to me. Wow.
Yeah, it's set in a different context, so it sort of means a different thing, but I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is. It's very interesting.
But yeah, this is also the first story that really involves the Doctor having any sort of romantic feeling for anyone.
Yeah, would that be necessarily... Say that again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, what I'm saying is that, with the Doctor and, I believe her name is Caprica, the older woman, who's actually played by, I think, a 29-year-old, but is treated as older in the story, it seems that there is some sort of romantic attraction between the two of them. It also seems like the Doctor is using her.
Yeah.
But it seems like he at least feels something, and he feels very sad when he has to leave her.
I couldn't really tell if that was him actually being sad or if he was just continuing to manipulate her.
I like to prefer that he's not that much of a jerk.
Yeah, I was hoping that as well, but it was hard to tell, which is kind of strange, although he was kind of he did seem a bit clueless for, at least the whole marrying thing.
Yeah, the whole, if you share hot cocoa, then that means you're engaged.
Yeah.
Which also forms the plot of an episode of Firefly.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Where the hero inadvertently stumbles into some sort of bizarre marriage ritual.
That's very true.
But yeah, overall, another thing that makes the story very different from... there aren't very many Doctor Who stories that are set in historical periods and aren't science fiction-y beyond that.
That's true.
There's no alien or monster. The only science fictional concept involved is the fact that the Doctor has brought these people there via the TARDIS.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't even really... I mean, I guess the fact that they're time travelers is kind of... It plays a role. But yeah, for the most part, there's really nothing science fiction-y about it. Which
was something they used to do occasionally back in the William Hartnell days, but I don't think it's been done at all in the new series. I sometimes wonder whether it might be a good idea to do something like that, just to sort of branch out.
Yeah, that would definitely be a nice change of pace. And I mean, I guess this most recent season was kind of different from what the Russell T Davies era had been, but in at least some respects. But yeah, it would be nice to see it change even more and go sort of back to that older style.
Especially because they've gone back to that older style in terms of the TARDIS design with the little St. John's ambulance on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's also a very fast-paced story in terms of the classic series, I think.
Yeah, I was noticing that as well. It seemed to move along at a nice pace. And also, I don't know, this is something I've kind of gotten over when watching Classic Who, but it seems for the most part, for the classic Doctor Who episodes that I've watched, well, a lot of the, props and stuff look kind of bad. But it seemed like in this episode, everything was kind of, I mean, obviously, with the camera, it wasn't very good, but I think that the props at least sort of matched the quality that you could discern via the camera. And so I think it was almost easier to get into, I would say.
Yeah, it's sort of like what some people say about the Series 4 story Midnight. It's not very ambitious in its use of special effects. And for that reason, it does very well.
Yeah, true.
Because there's no monster to look at and there's no crazy science fiction things going on. The only exception, I would say, in Aztecs, though, is anytime the characters are handling an object that they claim to be heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice that, actually.
They're like, this stone, you can't move it because it's so heavy. Here, let me get that for you. And it's clearly not.
Yeah, and the fight scenes were a little bit... I mean, I don't know. I wasn't expecting much from the fight scenes, but they were kind of not very good.
It was pretty clear that they were using stunt doubles.
Yeah. But besides that, I quite liked it.
Yeah, I think overall the Aztecs is probably one of my favorite classic stories. And as I said, certainly my favorite Hartnell story.
And another thing I'd just like to bring up, I know I mentioned this outside of this podcast, but the face that that guy makes, the sacrifice guy, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I forget.
Nor could I probably pronounce it anyway.
All Aztec-y.
Yeah. When he makes, the face that he makes at the end is just hilarious. I love that face.
Well, one thing about that character especially, but about the whole story in general, is it's often described as very Shakespearean, especially in terms of the performance and the kind of things the characters say. I don't know, I'm an English lit person, so maybe that strikes me more than it would you, but it certainly did. And it also struck me that it's a very character-driven story, much more than some other classic stories that just involve the Doctor and his companion stumbling into a situation and then getting captured and escaping and then getting captured again and then escaping.
That's true.
This has a lot more to do with motivations and what people want and stuff.
Yeah, I felt that we found out more about pretty much all of the characters. Like Susan.
Who wasn't even really in it that much.
That's true, she wasn't.
But what little she did was, it seemed to serve a purpose.
Yeah, and we got a lot, it seems, about Ian and, of course, Barbara. So yeah, I think overall it was very good to see those characters and, like you said, the motivations that they have.
So, yeah. I don't know how much more we could say.
Probably not a whole lot.
It was a very close vote, I guess you'd call it. But anyhow, whatever we call it, taking suggestions, it was very close between Tomb of the Cybermen and the War Games in terms of which Second Doctor story we would be watching. And it looks like we are watching the War Games, a massive 10-part story.
All right, I look forward to it.
Are you prepared?
I'm ready. I am in a good mental place. I can definitely watch 10 episodes. But no, it's actually going to be really interesting because, like I said, I've never seen the second Doctor before.
And this is, I don't know if you're aware, this is his final story.
Oh, is it really?
And it is also the first story in which the Time Lords are introduced. I mean, aside from the Doctor and Susan. I mean, it's the first story in which we find out who the Doctor's people are.
Ah. Interesting.
And because of that, a lot of people really tend to hold the story in high esteem. It may be that the story is also a little bit slow, and it does feature a lot of people being captured and then escaping. But it's still a pretty enjoyable story. So, yeah.
All right, awesome.
And then the week after that, we will be watching some story involving the third Doctor, Jon Pertwee.
Ah, yes. Another Doctor I've not seen any of. I believe second and third are the only two, because when I was listing the episodes I'd already seen of the classic series, I forgot to mention that I have actually seen a Seventh Doctor story, and I don't know, I probably forgot something else too. But yeah, so I've seen pretty much all the...
Did you see the Eighth Doctor movie?
Well, of course I saw that. I mean, who hasn't?
Well, I mean, there's no legal way to see it in the United States of America. But that doesn't mean people haven't seen it.
Didn't it air on Fox?
Well, I mean, yeah, it aired on Fox in 1996, but after that, I don't know whether they ever re-aired it, but I do know that they won't release it on DVD. It's been released on DVD in the UK for years. It's been out for years, but they can't release it in the US because the US DVD release rights are all tied up with Fox, and they don't think they'd make any money off of the release, and they're probably right.
I see.
So it may never be released in the US.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we're not going to watch it when we get there. Yeah, that's going to be a very easy vote.
I wonder if there's a way we can make that more exciting. But
I don't know. We could throw in some audio plays.
I can't even really comprehend how audio plays work, because I've never listened to one.
Well, maybe after we're done with this whole going through all the Doctors, I'll force you to listen to some of the Eighth Doctor audio plays, which are only 45 minutes long and are thus perfect for beginners.
Ooh, awesome.
As opposed to many of the ones that are released by Big Finish are 2 hours long or longer. I don't know how much there is to discuss about this new stuff about Torchwood.
I don't really have much to say about it.
One thing that I found at least the smallest bit interesting is that the character descriptions that Starz has now released, it highlights the fact that Gwen and Jack at one point had a certain amount of romantic attraction, which was something that was almost completely absent in Children of Earth.
Yeah, I certainly did not pick up on anything of that nature when I watched Children of Earth, which is all I've seen.
Right, as I'm aware. But in the first season especially, and to some extent the second season of Torchwood, there was a sort of beneath the surface almost subplot of Gwen having a thing for Jack and possibly vice versa, which apparently, because of the fact that they're choosing now to mention it, it probably means that is going to be an element of Torchwood, The New World. Oh. Which is a stupid title, by the way.
Yeah, is that... I feel like they probably could come up with something better, but I personally can't come up with anything better, so I have no authority there.
I mean, it's a British show, and it's coming to America, and so they call it The New World, as though...
I was really hoping that wasn't what they were, referring to.
I think it has to be at least in part.
Yeah, I suppose.
Although it may be that it actually involves some sort of new world.
See, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that, it's not just, it's America, so we'll call it the New World. I really hope that's not the case, because that is lame.
Yeah, it does sound pretty lame. Also, the other thing is that we have some details about the new character, but it doesn't really sound very interesting to read about. It may be fascinating on screen, but it's like, he's a rich kid, I think, who is now working for the CIA and needs Torchwood's help.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to that.
No, they don't even have an actor picked out yet, or at least not that they're telling us.
Huh.
So I'm sure that over the course of the next several months, people will be speculating about who is going to be playing this character, but personally, I don't care. I mean, I hope it's a good actor.
I think it's Georgia Moffat.
Why Georgia Moffat? You always think it's Georgia Moffat.
I don't know.
Always think it's Jenny. Come on. Are we going back to this again, Lewis? Have you played the Doctor Who Adventure game yet?
I haven't. I keep forgetting to do that.
I have played the first episode, but not the second episode.
How was it?
It was enjoyable, and I intend to eventually play the rest of it, but There was nothing in it that was really outstanding, and I don't feel a pressing need to play as soon as possible. I'll probably wait until they are commercially available for the Mac in the US. They're now commercially available for the PC, but for some reason they're dragging their feet on releasing it for Mac. As far as I know, they haven't done so yet. But anyhow, what I was saying is they've now announced the third episode. The first one was called City of the Daleks. The second one was Blood of the Cybermen. And the third one is going to be released later this month, and it's called TARDIS.
Ooh. Huh.
And apparently it takes place entirely inside the TARDIS, and you get to pilot the TARDIS.
Really? Wait, really? That could be a lot of fun.
It could be a lot of fun, or it could be horribly lame.
Yeah. Well, I could be misremembering, but didn't they say, like, way back before Series 5 started that we were going to see more of the interior of the TARDIS?
That is true. I believe they did say that, and we haven't yet, but they did also say at one point, I think I was either watching Doctor Who Confidential or reading an article in which they said that Stephen Moffat had made a plan of what's where in the TARDIS and what those doors off to the side where they go, but he left one blank and said to the game designers, you can decide what's there.
Interesting.
I mean, I would like to see more of the TARDIS, and that sounds cool, but, actually piloting the TARDIS, I mean, it's probably just like, you can press a button to go to this planet, or press a button to go to that planet. I'm guessing it's not going to be much more sophisticated than that.
So we can't put any dents in the 1980s.
No, sadly. I know how much we all want to.
Yeah, I really should play at least the games that are released. I don't think I could play the games that aren't released yet.
No. Again, I've only played the first episode, and it's very, I'd say it's about half point-and-click adventure game, sort of like Monkey Island, and about half stealth.
Stealth?
Well, like, there are Daleks, and you're trying to avoid the Daleks seeing you.
Okay. So maybe not necessarily like the Tom Clancy kind of game.
Well, I haven't ever played those games. I'm not a gamer.
Yeah, admittedly, I haven't really played. Whatever.
See, the only analog I'm aware of in my limited gaming experience as a Nintendo nerd is the scenes in Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time where you're avoiding the castle guards, but you don't know what I mean. But if anyone is listening to this who has played the Zelda games, it's very similar to that. And the Daleks are equally stupid to the castle guards.
All right. Well, now any listener who's familiar with those, can feel a sense of, that.
And I welcome those listeners to email me if they want to discuss the chronology of the Legend of Zelda games. Because I am always open to discussing that.
That's wonderful. I certainly don't want to get into
Well, I mean, all I'd really do is I'd talk and you'd just say, yeah. And yeah, okay, interesting.
So really no different than, like, the past 20 minutes.
No, not at all.
This is probably going to open up a can of worms, but are they considered canon?
Oh, brother. I think, I know Stephen Moffat is actively hostile to the concept of determining stories as being canon or non-canon.
Okay.
I believe he has said something close to, a story about a dimension-hopping time traveler cannot possibly have a canon. Which I think is a bit of a fishy statement to make. But I would say that apparently he is heavily involved in the writing and production of these. They're released by the BBC. They feature the actors. I mean, none of this is really like, yes, they're canon, this all proves it. But I believe the BBC is trying to treat them as though they're legitimate interactive episodes of the TV show.
Okay, because I think it would be kind of a big deal. I believe the first game involves the Daleks, yes?
Yeah.
So that seems like that would be kind of a big deal. What with the Daleks being kind of a big deal.
Yes and no. I mean, no massive revelations are made in it, except in terms of its own story. It's entirely self-contained.
Oh, okay.
It's not immediately clear to me where it would fit in to the timeline. I suppose it would probably fit in during the point at which the Doctor and Amy are traveling together after Rory's death and Amy doesn't remember him. That's just my guess.
That makes sense.
I might be wrong. But, actually, a couple of months ago, or maybe it was even closer to a year ago, I was a guest person on the podcast Bridging the Rift to discuss the topic of Doctor Who canon with its hosts, Nat and Katrina. And one of the things that I think Nat mentioned at the time is that there's a rule in the BBC Charter which says that the BBC cannot broadcast a story which requires you to purchase a product in order to understand the story. So, like, if they wanted to leave out an important episode and say you have to buy this on DVD or else you're not going to get the story, then that would be against the rules. And I mean, you could interpret that as saying that the BBC is officially not allowed to make commercial products that are considered canon. And because this isn't a commercial product, then that means it could be included in canon, in theory.
Aha.
I don't know why I just said that, because it's not really all that interesting.
Well,
but
it does make sense, though. I mean, but if there is no restriction on accessing it, I suppose, at least not for residents of the UK, I would say that, yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't be canon. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Right, because the books and the audios and everything are all commercially released, and they're produced by people other than the BBC, either by BBC Books, which is actually a separate entity, I think, or by Big Finish Productions and stuff like that. But this is a legitimate BBC production. So make of that what you will. Personally, I don't care. I really don't. I mean, I'm more interested in whether the games are good, and they're fine. They're not as much fun as watching an episode of the TV show, but they're pretty enjoyable, and that's enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't think you could hope for much more.
Although I'm sure some people do.
Yeah, well, yeah. Although the thing is, though, I mean, having not played any of the games, I don't know, but I guess I'd really be more concerned about whether or not they're canon if I played them and was interested in someone or something that happened in them, and then I wanted to maybe see that played out in an episode. I don't know. But, you know, if there isn't anything like that, then I guess I wouldn't really care.
Yeah, I highly doubt that anything in the games is ever going to have a consequence in the TV show, unless it's a very minor thing, like a joke.
Well, jokes are important.
Let's talk a little bit about Caprica. You had put off watching the finale. Any particular reason why?
Yeah, no, not really. Just, I guess, if anything, lack of interest.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did to Stargate Universe, which is another show which I watch. I still haven't watched the season finale of that. But anyhow, so when you finally got around to watching the finale, what'd you think?
I mean, I don't know. It was, I always like seeing James Marsters and stuff, and so it was nice seeing him and being all evil and stuff. Well, not... Yeah, evil. I guess I'll go with evil.
He is a terrorist.
Well, yeah, that would be evil.
Who kills people.
I guess, you know.
And lies to teenage girls.
Yeah, if you lie to teenage girls, I think that makes you evil. But, I don't even know characters' names all that well. I think that's probably due to my lack of interest.
And probably the passage of time.
Well, that as well, yeah. There's that one guy who... I actually was kind of sad to see that one guy get killed off. That, like, lab assistant or whatever.
Yeah, he was kind of cool.
Besides that, I don't know. I guess I have mixed feelings about it just because there was a lot of stuff going on, and some of it sort of ended abruptly. I mean, certainly with Zoe escaping, that was one thing that, I don't know, that was kind of weird how that suddenly happened. I feel like that was something that was sort of being built up to the whole half season, I guess. But I don't know, I thought it was just kind of sudden.
Well, I felt like, on the one hand, I kind of echo your because there were large parts of it that I don't care about. For instance, I care absolutely nothing about the wife of the robot builder guy and her thing about this bridge and her brother dying, I think it was. And I could not be any less interested in that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I did feel like in the finale in particular, things started happening. I felt like a lot of the first half season of Caprica, not much happens, and the things that happen seem to unhappen. Like, for instance, the father seems like he has finally realized that this robot contains, for lack of a better term, a digital copy of his daughter's soul. And then he sort of unrealizes that. He figures it out, and he tries to prove it, but fails to prove it, and says, never mind, I guess it really does. And I feel like, based on the events of this episode, there are going to be consequences for the things that happened. So I feel like there is some sort of forward motion now.
That's true. Yeah, I suppose, as it is right now, I just can't see it going anywhere interesting. I mean, maybe that's just me not really paying close enough attention to all the minor details of, you know... It is kind of hard to keep track of everything, And if anything, with Joseph Adama, that sort of was something I found interesting, him looking for his daughter and stuff like that. And that also sort of ended abruptly.
Yeah, I did find that interesting. I also found that over the course of the season, it was dragged out way too long.
That's true. But yeah, so I think that, I mean, I don't know where they're going to take it, but, if Joseph Adama's just going to be like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'll go back to my normal life now. Or if he's going to do something else kind of crazy. I don't know.
I think it'd be really boring if he just went back to his normal life.
Yeah, although, I was actually just got done watching an episode of Battlestar Galactica in which they sort of mentioned Joseph Adama quite a bit. And he really didn't seem like this kind of crazy V-world inhabiting guy. He seemed like a respectable lawyer. So I don't know if he's going to go to some kind of rehab or something to get back to that point, but it's kind of weird. I mean, I guess if anything, I hate them contradicting Battlestar because I really liked Battlestar.
Well, as I think I never really much cared for Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I am at a loss as to how to explain why that's the case. I really don't understand why Battlestar Galactica doesn't appeal to me in the way it does to other people. A lot of people seem to say they like Battlestar Galactica because they like the characterization. And, I mean, fine if they do, but I think that's one of the weakest areas of the show. But I can't really, explain why I feel that way. And I was enjoying the show more than I was enjoying Battlestar Galactica. I don't want to sound like a hater, because I would give Battlestar Galactica maybe a 7 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10, let's say. Whereas I've only seen the first season, and a lot of people have said the first season of Battlestar was great, and then it went downhill. So I'm not in any rush to see the second season, let's say.
I don't know. I think this second season was one of the weaker seasons. I wouldn't simply say that it went downhill after season 1. I think that season 3 really picks up and does a lot of interesting things, but I would say season 4 is possibly my least favorite season, so it was kind of a roller coaster ride, I would say, because I really liked season 3, so there's that.
When I first saw Battlestar Galactica, it was pretty clear to me what kind of show it was. It's a show about people on a spaceship, and that's apparent. But it was also clear to me what I'm trying to say. It was also clear to me that it had somewhere to go. I can see this show sustaining over the course of a few seasons and going somewhere. And I feel like I have a good idea of where it's going to go. I don't know if that idea is correct or not, because I've never stuck around to find out. But it felt to me like a show with legs. I have no idea what Caprica's even going to look like in the next episode that I see. I'm not sure what it is. I'm still not sure how to describe this show to someone who hasn't seen it. And even though we already know what happens to this civilization and to some extent to these people, I don't feel like I have a clear idea of where the show is trying to take me.
That's a good point. Yeah, it is unclear in its direction, I would say, in where it's headed.
Although at times it can be quite enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just angry at it sometimes. So angry. I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently there is going to be a new series of Battlestar Webisodes.
Really?
Mobisodes? I don't know what you kids call them these days. I like the term Mobisodes because it's so bad. Apparently, yeah, it's going to be about a young Adama, but not as young as he is in Caprica. So a maybe 18 or 19-year-old. Is that ground that's already been covered in Battlestar Galactica?
Bill Adama as a teenager? No, I don't think so. If it was, I completely missed it.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a teenager. I know it's him as a young man in the war. I mean, that wasn't covered by flashbacks or anything.
I don't think that it's ever been covered, really.
As a person who liked Battlestar Galactica, does that sound interesting to you?
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Well then, you're the target audience, I'm not.
Well, then I guess it worked. Really, I like the character of Bill Adama a lot. He's quite possibly my favorite character. I mean, certainly not as a kid. I mean, that character is not very interesting, but him as an adult is interesting. So, insofar as I like him as an adult, maybe I would like him as a young adult.
I was just sort of thinking of this, and I think I might realize the reason Battlestar never appealed to me.
Okay.
It is absolutely zero fun. A lot of people compare it to Lost in terms of the intricacies of the plot or whatever, and I'm like, fine, but Lost also has, Hurley, and it has Charlie, and it has Desmond getting drunk on a sailboat, but I feel like Battlestar is very dour.
I would say that if anything, they have Colonel Ty, but even then, yeah, he's not quite.
It doesn't seem like intentional fun.
Although, giving Michael Hogan dialogue like, dude, that might be kind of interesting.
The same thing is true of Caprica. I feel like there's very little comic relief or any lightness whatsoever. It's all people being very serious and angry with one another.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would say it sort of makes it harder to like the characters.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I mean, for some reason I didn't quite have that problem with Battlestar, maybe just because I like Michael Hogan so much. But I don't know. For some reason that didn't really bother me.
Although, actually, they have Patton Oswalt in Caprica.
That's true.
He plays the talk show host. And I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, Patton Oswalt. And now that I think of it, I think I remember Bill or Willie Adama or whatever they call him being sort of indoctrinated into criminal culture by his gay uncle, which is a little bit fun.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, also group marriages.
Yes, right. I mean, I guess Adama never really talked about his gay uncle, so I can't quite say that contradicts.
Did he ever specifically say there was no gay uncle?
Well, no.
Well, then it fits in canon.
Yeah. I guess that does kind of fit his character. I mean, I would have never really thought of him as like a criminal, but I guess, these kids did get up to, mischief and what have you.
Okay. I'm trying to find the fun.
No, and I understand that.
I sent you a link to a post on IO9. I don't know if you read it, but they were discussing the possibility that Caprica will not be renewed for a second season.
Ah, yes.
There's still the second half of this season, which they've yet to air. But we were told a while back that we'd know for sure whether Caprica was getting a second season by August 15th, which has come and gone without confirmation of it being renewed. So it could well be that they're not going to renew it.
I can't quite say I'd be disappointed necessarily, but I almost want it to get renewed just so I can see where it's going.
Yeah.
But then again, I haven't seen the rest of the first season, so I don't know if I wouldn't like where it was going anyway.
True. I think it's a hard sell to a mainstream audience. So I have a feeling that the ratings haven't been good and won't be getting much better.
Yeah.
I do remember reading that it was losing to swamp loggers on the Discovery Channel or something.
That really says it all.
Yeah, I will certainly continue to watch.
I will as well.
Whenever they bring it back on, anyway. I'll watch if and when it comes back on television.
Well, now, you say if. Is there a chance that they're not even going to bother airing the second half, or is that definitely?
Well, I suppose there's always a chance. I don't think they've announced when they're going to air it. It could be that they've decided not to bother.
That would be disappointing.
Although, they went through all the trouble to produce them, so they might as well. Unless they think they're really, really going to lose money just by airing them instead of airing Sharktopus or something.
That'd be a little sad.
Hey, Sharktopus features Eric Roberts, who played the Master in the 1996 Doctor Who TV movie. So maybe we should watch Sharktopus. When is Sharktopus on? Maybe we should watch it and discuss it on this podcast.
You know what? Maybe we should.
That about wraps it up for another episode of The Cloister Room, which you can contact by sending an email to thecloisterroom@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter by tweeting or following at The Cloister Room. Lewis, tell the people your Twitter username.
My Twitter username is Miles Belly.
Okay, thank you. Mine is T. Dickinson. And you can find this podcast and a couple more at thecloisterroom.com. I didn't forget anything, did I?
I don't think so.
In any case, I am Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Lewis Midas.
And this has been The Cloister Room. Goodbye.
Awesome.